About 6:45 here on Morning Live, the National Youth Development Agency. Now, you'll remember that last week we had the CEO in the studio, Steven Ngubeni, last week, where he was telling us his side of the story, where he'd won a court order, where he could go back to work, and then he was giving us his side of the story, where he was forcefully removed from the business premises and just wanting to do his work, but the NYDA not allowing him to do so. Well, to give us the NYDA perspective and to find out exactly what is going on at the National Youth Development Agency, we are joined by the chairman of this particular agency, Yershen Pillay, to perhaps shed some light for us. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good to be here.
Lots of allegations were made here on Morning Live by Steven Ngubeni, just saying that he had his court order, he brought it to Morning Live, he showed it to us, said he was able to go back to work, yet he went back to work and he was forcefully removed from his offices. Can you give us a little bit of clarity? What is going on?
What has happened is that the judgment by the Labour Court has been distorted. Paragraph 20, for example, in particular, speaks to the reason why the application was made to the Labour Court. The CEO of the NYDA had applied to the Labour Court to have the disciplinary inquiry into matters or charges of maladministration against him being reinstated, and that was granted by the Labour Court. So we were instructed as the employer to then reinstate the CEO as a suspended employee and then to reopen the disciplinary inquiry into the charges of maladministration that were leveled against him in order to afford him that opportunity to respond to these charges. So it was specifically mentioned in the judgment that as the employer, we would then have to reopen the disciplinary inquiry and provide him with a fair process. And that's what we intend doing. It is, of course, an internal disciplinary inquiry, and we will then allow that process to unfold.
So at this point, in your opinion, as the chairperson, he is not an active CEO right now. He is still not able to until the disciplinary process takes place. Is that correct? That
is the correct reading of the judgment, that the court did not understand Mr. Ngubeni to object to the continuation of his suspension, and he remains a suspended employee facing a disciplinary inquiry.
So he was, in fact, taken out of his office, removed by security officials out of his office to let this process. When is this process going to happen?
Well, that was part of the terms and conditions of his suspension, that not to enter NYDA premises and make any contact with NYDA staff. So the Labour Court has, of course, and we have accepted it and will implement it, that we must allow the disciplinary process to continue and not compromise the thoroughness of that process. In terms of rushing the process, we should not do that. And we have obliged as part of ensuring a fair process going forward. So,
carry on. Is there more we wanted to say?
Well, what we've observed, Leanne, actually, as the leadership of the NYDA, is that the public seem not to actually care about what the suspended CEO has to say or issues revolving around the NYDA CEO, but actually care about an NYDA that works. An NYDA that can be rebuilt to actually respond, that can actually deliver opportunities to as many young people as possible. And that's what the public really care about, and that's where our focus is as the leadership of the NYDA.
Which is not happening right now because of these internal squabbles that are taking place. What is the problem with Steven Ngubeni in your perspective? Why do you not want him there?
It's not that we don't want him. I think that the false picture has been painted. It's simply that there are charges that have been leveled against the CEO of the NYDA, and we expect him to answer to those charges. Remember that the Auditor General expressed an opinion that there was a significant amount of irregular expenditure, and part of that irregular expenditure was under the watch of the CEO of the NYDA. And so we've asked for an explanation. And so we're not passing judgment. We're simply saying answer to these charges through a fair disciplinary process. And that's what the Labour Court has asked us to do as the NYDA. But then again, as we provide that space, you still have an organization of more than 300 employees working tirelessly on the ground in 14 branches, delivering on a number of products, services, and programs. As we speak today, we're about to partner with the Department of Trade and Industry to celebrate Youth Enterprise Day, showcasing all the products, services that young entrepreneurs can be afforded. And a number of other programs and interventions that will be rolled out. The Solomon Mashlangu Scholarship Fund, we have the new grant program, the loan program, vouchers and mentors for young entrepreneurs. And soon to be launched a new youth build infrastructure development side to train young artisans. So the work continues. It doesn't mean that the work stops.
Yeah.
The NYDA is not, like any organization, is not immune to such challenges. And so we'll manage these challenges, but on the same token, continue to do our work.
Well, one could hope so, because we do get feedback from the youth saying that there is problems at the Youth Development Agency. They try and approach, they try and get the funding, they try and do things, but it seems that there is such long delays in the process, and one can only blame it on the internal squabbling that's going on. Let's just end this interview. You've given us the positives of what are coming out, but let's just talk about these internal squabbles and end it there. When is the process going to be brought to a conclusion? Is it currently underway, this internal disciplinary process between the CEO and the NYDA? Is it underway? When will it be finalized?
The judgment has asked us to reopen the process. Yeah. We will be reopening the process, but we have been asked by the Labour Court not to compromise on the thoroughness of that process. There were a number of frustrations that were experienced in the process. There were a number of delays. The legal opinion we received as the board was that we were incurring significant legal costs, money which could have been spent otherwise, and that's why we made the decision that we did. But now the court has asked us not to compromise on the thoroughness of the process and allow it to continue. And that's what we will do. We will accept it, we will implement it, but at the same time, we will not stop the work that we're continuing doing. And young people have raised issues which are more pertinent in terms of how the NYDA should reach out to more rural youth, which is what we are now applying our minds to. Which the young people have also raised issues with us in terms of the efficiencies, which we're now addressing, and also to engage the Department of Basic Education on improving teaching and learning in schools. So this is what we feel, or why we feel that there's that public support that the NYDA remains a relevant and important institution in the lives of young people.
All right, thanks for coming in to clarify a couple of issues. The National Youth Development Agency Chairperson Yershen Pillay talking to us here on Morning Live.